Hi everyone, welcome to Gateway Lectures. Today here are the solution for the daily quiz day 4, and here is our first question. A battleship weighs 8,000 newtons. On filling the ship's lifeboats on one side with water weighing 25 newtons and its mean distance from the center of the ship being 10 meters. If the angle of displacement of the plumb line is 4.87 degrees, then the metacentric height is in meters. First of all, we'll understand what the condition is, then we'll see what is actually is plumb line. See, this is a battleship and it is in water. Say suppose this is our water level to where the ship is submerged. This is our water level to where our ship is submerged. Right, lifeboats will be above the water only. They will be hanging beside the battleship. Beside any ship, you will find the lifeboats. Okay, so in one of the lifeboat here on a right side lifeboat, these are lifeboats, and in one of the lifeboat, water is completely filled in the lifeboat, completely or partially, but water is filled, and the water weight is 25 tons, and overall the ship weight is 8,000 tons. Okay, now they said that by filling this water on this lifeboat, the plumb line displaces by 4.87 degrees. So what exactly is plumb line? See, in every device, whether it may be an diesel engine, whether it may be any locomotive, to balance its position, there will be always a line which indicates, or there will be always a device which indicates its inclination. Suppose the ship is in water here, maybe this is the straight axis of the ship. Say suppose this is the straight axis of the ship, of the water, and here now when there is no water filled in the lifeboat, the total weight of the ship passes through the center line, and the total weight passes through the center of gravity G. But when there is a extra weight acting on this right side, the ship tries to tilt in this direction, right? In the same way, the center of gravity also shifts the other direction. Okay, it will come to a new position G dash. What does this exactly mean? In ship, to the ceiling of the ship, there will be a bob attached, and that bob is called as plumb bob. That bob is called plumb bob. It will have some mass. So whenever the ship deviates within some certain angle, say suppose some 10 degrees, then it will be a very serious condition where we need to immediately balance the things. But within the 10 degrees, okay, the ship can sail. Even under very high waves, very high impact waves, the ship can sail. But there will be a certain angle limit. So just to know the inclination or the deviation of the ship from the straight line, we'll keep a plumb bob here. So whenever the ship tilts to this right side direction, this plumb bob also will tilt to the other direction. Okay, the plumb bob will also tilt to the other direction, right? And they are saying that this angle of tilt is given as theta as 4.87 degrees centigrade. This is our plumb bob, and the line is called as plumb line, and this is a device used in ships. Nowadays they are completely electronic sensors, based on electronic sensors and things. But when in olden days they used to use these type of devices, all mechanical analog devices, to measure the position of the ship and everything. Okay, this is a plumb line concept here. So using this, we need to calculate the metacentric height. What will be the metacentric height? Okay, so we'll do that. Here no more dimensions were given. How will we solve this question? Here we have to make some few things, assumptions here. One being, this is the ship is a floating body, right? It is not a submerged. So for floating body, ship is a floating body. If it is a marine, then it can be a submerged case. But here ship is a floating body. For the floating body, the stable condition is given by m, that is nothing but metacentric height, is above G. G is nothing but the center of gravity of the ship. Okay, so if this is our free surface of the liquid, and there is a body, suppose, and this is the longitudinal axis of the body. Then for this body to be stable, the metacentric height should be above the G, and anyhow the B will be below. B will based on the buoyancy point will be based on the density of the ship. Is the density varying, then B also will vary. If density doesn't vary, B will be at a point based upon the volume of the fluid displaced. That will all depend upon the dimensions of the ship. Here dimensions were not given, so we will not discuss about the term B, but we will focus on GM. Always the metacentric height is nothing but GM. Okay, here we need to calculate the GM. So we'll see how to calculate this. See here, whenever the extra weight acts here, the extra weight small w, nothing but 25 tons act here, the ship will try to tilt in this way. But to make the ship balance, see, if it is tilt in this way, whenever a sudden wave comes, there will be more chance that ship may completely topple. But so that here this plumb line not only indicates how much inclination the ship is, but it also indicates the additional balanced weight to be added to the other side of the ship to make this in a stable condition, to make this center line a straight line. Okay, here W load is acting due to the water being added into that. So in ship there will be something called as balancing weights, balancing masses. Those will be placed in the ship to balance this weight. To avoid the ship completely toppling in this direction, we will add the balancing masses here. Here we'll add the balancing masses. Okay, and that balancing mass weight also should be, that balancing mat magnet also should be W. But why should we add this balancing mat? To just shift the center of gravity. Now here, see, this is the condition. This is the plumb line attached to the ceiling, and this is the plumb line. This is the plumb bob. Whenever the ship tilts in this direction, the G, here it will be the G. Original center of gravity will be somewhere here, and this is the original metacentric height. Okay, and now whenever the bob shifts to this direction, the G also shifts to a somewhere point here, and that point is G dash. Okay, so and the G varies with the metacentric height, and here this is the angle given theta, and this is also an angle theta. Okay, this is the plumb line shift. The plumb line, nothing but the string shifts in this angle by theta, and also our center of gravity will shift from metacentric height. So whenever the ship floats, we always know that it always tilts about a point, and that point is nothing but metacentric height. That is the actual definition of metacentric height. So here also the G will tilt about the metacentric height. So the metacentric height point is fixed. So the G changes with respect to metacentric height to a distance of G dash. So it will shift to a point called G dash. Now the complete center of gravity of the body is here. So there are more chances that the ship might topple. So to make it balanced, we attach an other weight, the weight equal to the magnitude of this small w in the other opposite direction. Okay, and that is at a distance of, in the question the distance were given as 10 meters from the center of the ship. So this is 10 meters. Okay, so now here we've added the w weight at a distance of 10 meters. Here is our G dash, and here is our G. This is our reference axis. Okay, just to maintain the moment balance between these. And here whenever G is shifted to G dash, whenever it is G, only 8,000 newtons is acting. But whenever it is G dash, 8,000 plus 25 newtons of water weight also is being acting. Okay, this W whatever we are adding here is already the part of 8,000 newtons. It is in the ship. They are the balancing masses. Okay, so here 8,000 plus 25 tons of weight is being added. Okay, and this value is equal to 25 tons. So how we will proceed mathematically? Mathematically, if you can observe, let this point be A, and let this bob initial position B, and this position be C. Now we will apply GM, nothing but the original metacentric height, upon G dash, the shift in the center of gravity, is equal to AB by similar triangles method, AB upon BC, and this total is nothing but equal to 1 by tan theta. If you apply tan theta, you will get the same relation. Now we need GM and GG. Here AB and BC are not known. Any dimensions was not given. We just need to calculate GM using GG. So we can calculate the position of GG. So from this, GM is equal to GG dash upon tan theta. Now we will calculate the GG dash value. Okay, this is the GG dash. Here in this question, we will take moment about the reference axis. Moment about reference axis. This is our reference axis. Okay, we'll take moment about that. Here on the left hand side, you can see small w into 10 meters is equal to, on the right hand side, 8000 plus 25, nothing but 8025 into GG dash. So we need to get the value of GG dash from that. W into small w into 10 upon 8025. Okay, here we'll substitute the value of GG dash to get the GM. GG dash is nothing but small w, the value of small w is 25 tons into 10 meters is the distance by 8025 into tan of, the angle was given as 4.87 degrees, tan of 4.87 degrees. So from this we'll get the value of GM, and that value we are getting as 0.36563 meters. This is our answer. This is a very simple question. Just you need to know the concept of plumb line. What exactly is plumb line and how to get the value of GG dash. That we will be doing it by adding a balancing mass of small w on this side to balance the moment produced by shifting of the center of gravity. By shifting the center of gravity, there will be a moment produced. To balance that moment, we will be adding an additional small w weight, that is but the balancing mass on the other hand side, to make the ship reference axis vertical. Next question. The components of velocity in a 2D frictionless incompressible flow are u is equal to t square plus 3y square and v is equal to 3x square. Seeing the question, we can say that the velocity u comma v both are the functions of space and time. So here our acceleration varies with space and also with time. So our acceleration will have two components here. One will be the conventional acceleration component, the other will be the local or temporal acceleration component. Okay, for doing that, it is a two-dimensional, and also u and v are given. We know u is a velocity function in x direction, v is a velocity function in y direction. So the given 2D plane is xy plane, and we need to calculate the total acceleration at points 1, 0 and the time value is 0 seconds. Okay, now first of all we need to know what is ax. First of all, we need to know what is A resultant here. A resultant here is nothing but under root of ax square plus ay square. To calculate resultant, we need ax and ay. Then what is ax? Ax is nothing but, it is given for in a differential form as u into dou u by dou x plus v into dou u by dou y plus w into dou u by dou z plus dou u by dou t. See, u, whenever we talk about x, in every differential component it should be small u, nothing but the velocity component along x. This term is called as, it is a space variation of velocity, and it is called as conventional acceleration. Conventional acceleration, and here it is varying with time. This is called as temporal or local acceleration. Okay, similarly we will get the ay. Ay is nothing but u into, here we have written in every differential component small u. Here if it is with respect to y, so it is everywhere v plus v into dou v by dou y plus v into dou v by dou z plus dou v by dou t. So from the given u and v functions, we need to calculate each and every value of dou u by dou x, dou u by dou y, dou u by dou z, dou u by dou t, and also dou v by dou x, dou v by dou y, dou v by dou z, and dou v by dou t. Then we can directly substitute them in ax and ay, we can get the final answer. So initially we will calculate all the value. For given u is equal to t square plus 3y square. So first dou u by dou x, there is no x component, so 0. And dou u by dou y, it is nothing but 6y by differentiating that u. And next dou u by dou z, there is no z component, 0. And dou u by dou t, nothing but 0. Sorry, not 0, it is 2 times of t, 2t. And next v is equal to 3x square was given. Then dou v by dou x, 6x. Dou v by dou y, 0. Dou v by dou z, 0. Dou v by dou t, 0. Because there is no y component, there is no z component, there is no time component. Right. Now we will substitute these values in ax. Ax is equal to u into dou u by dou x. So u is nothing but t square plus 3y square into dou u by dou x, nothing but 0, plus v into dou u by dou x. V is nothing but 3x square. So 3x square into, dou u by dou y, nothing but 6y. Right. Plus, anyhow, w is 0. W component is 0. Okay. Here I'll just write the formula again so that you will not have any confusion. Ax is equal to u into dou u by dou x plus v into dou u by dou y plus w into dou u by dou z plus dou u by dou t. Okay. Here dou u by dou x is 0, so this component gets 0. Here v is existing, dou u by dou y is also existing. Then the v is 3x square into dou u by dou y. Here we got it as 6y. And w is 0. Dou u by dou z is also 0. Dou u by dou t is 2t. Therefore, plus dou u by dou t is 2t. Therefore, our ax, we got it as 18x square y plus 2t. Keep it aside. Similarly, we will find the value of ay. Ay is nothing but u into dou v by dou x plus v into dou v by dou y plus w into dou v by dou z plus dou v by dou t. Here u is known, dou v by dou x is known, and dou v by dou y is 0, dou v by dou z is 0, dou v by dou t is 0. Therefore, ay is equal to u is nothing but t square plus 3y square into dou v by dou x, 6x. When you simplify this, we'll get the value of ay as 6x t square plus 18x y square. We need to calculate at the points 1, 0 and t is equal to 0 second. You substitute 1, 0 and t is equal to 0 in both. This condition in both ax and ay. If you substitute in ax, we will get it as 0 because here y is 0. Here y component will be 0. T is 0. Here t will be 0. So ax is equal to 0. If you substitute same point in y, here t is 0 and here y is 0. So here also we will get it as 0. Therefore, here a resultant is nothing but 0 meter per second square. And this is our answer. Next question. In an experiment, the following shear stress and time rate of shear strain values are obtained for a fluid. We don't know what exactly is the fluid, but we did an experiment with the shear stress and time rate of shear strain. Then we got few coordinates. So at shear stress of 1 kilopascal, we are having a rate of shear strain as 0, nothing but, and rate of shear strain as 0. And at shear stress of 3 kilopascals, we are getting a rate of shear strain as 2. Similar in that way. So now we'll do this question. Before that, we need to understand here, whenever if you can observe, there is no linear relation between the variation. Here the variation is not linear. 1 and 0, 3 and 2 having no relation. We can't coordinate. Suppose here we are having 1, here we are having 1. Here if we are having 2, and then again here if we are having 2. Here if we are having 3, and again here if we are having 3. Then we can say that the time rate of shear strain and shear stress are varying linearly. So for linear variation, nothing but directly proportional variation. To be exactly, directly proportional variation, we know when shear stress is directly proportional to the rate of shear strain, then it is given by Newtonian law of fluid, Newtonian laws, and here the fluid can be called as Newtonian fluid. But here there is no linear variation. In the given question, there is no linear variation. They are having different variations. So it is not a Newtonian fluid. So the fluid is something which is non-Newtonian in nature. So non-Newtonian fluid. So it doesn't obey tau is equal to mu into du by dy. It doesn't obey. Okay, so if it doesn't obey, then there should be something relation that should be obeying this. That is nothing but tau is equal to tau naught plus mu into du by dy whole power n. Here du by dy is called as rate of shear strain, or else it can also be called as velocity gradient. Okay. Now generally when we do the experiment, we'll also make many plots. So here also we will make one plot. So scientists did experiments and they made plot between rate of shear strain on the x-axis, and shear stress on the y-axis. Okay, then they got, for non-Newton fluids, they got three types of curves. One among them is called as ideal plastic curve, and this value from the origin is called as tau naught. Okay, that is from the beginning it is having some initial shear stress. So it is having some initial shear stress. Here in our question also, even at rate of shear strain being 0, there is an initial shear stress tau naught that is not equal to 0, and the tau naught value is given as 1 kilopascals, right? So there is a tau naught existing, and the scientists made experiment and they got three types of curve for this non-Newtonian fluids initially having some shear stress, and this curve is called as rheopectic, and this curve is called as thixotropic. More on this we will discuss in concept series, or else you can reference some standard textbook. But for this question we need only this information, and in our question there was the data given, the coordinates were given. Now we will calculate slope at each point. Okay, yeah, we know how to calculate slope at 2 points. Suppose there is a line passing through 2 points on a curve. Okay, then how to calculate the slope? So if the lines are the points are x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2, so how will we calculate slope? Slope is nothing but dy by dx. Here these are defined variables, so we can write them as del y upon del x. That is nothing but in between 2 points. When we know 2 points on a curve, then slope can be written as y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. In the same way, same pattern, we will find the slope in between all the 2 point set. So this is our 2 point set, one of the 2 point set, and this is our one of the 2 point set, and this is our one of the 2 point set. These all points will be lying on the same curve. So we need to calculate slope 3 times. This is our first slope, and this is our second slope, and this is our third slope. So we'll calculate the first slope, and we'll name it as slope 1. Slope 1 we can calculate it as y2 minus y1, nothing but 3 minus 1, because here y is nothing but shear stress. So we need to take the shear stress component as y and the shear strain component as x. So y2 minus y1 is nothing but 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 upon x2 minus x1 is 2 minus 0. Similarly, slope at 2, and this value we will get it as 3 minus 1 is 2, 2 upon 2 is 1, and slope at 2 is 4.4 minus 3 upon 3 minus 2. These are the points. 4.4 minus 3 upon 3 minus 2, and that value we will get it as 1.4. Similarly, slope at 3, slope at the third point, nothing but 6.3 minus 4 by 4 minus 3. So 6.3 minus 4.4 upon 4 minus 3, and that value will be getting as 1.9. So these were the slopes here. If you can observe here, between each and every point, our slope is being increased. So slope is being increased. Is it increasing linearly? Suppose, what does it exactly mean by linearly? Suppose if it is here 1, then it should be a multiple of this here. Or if it is here 2, then here it should be 4, and here it should be 8. Okay, it should be having some multiple relationship. But here, if you can observe 1, 1.4, 1.9, they doesn't have any multiple relationship. Therefore, the slope is increasing, but in non-linear fashion. Okay, slope is increasing non-linear fashion, and also for the given condition, tau naught is not equal to 0, and the tau naught is nothing but 1 kilopascals. So here it is our tau naught value. This is our tau naught, 1 kilopascals. And now we'll observe the 3 curves here. You'll see ideal plastic curve first. In the ideal plastic curve, the slope is actually constant. It is having a constant slope. Okay. And next case, if you can observe thixotropic. In thixotropic, the slope at each point is decreasing. Okay. So for thixotropic, slope is decreasing from point to point. But in rheopectic, if you can observe, the slope is increasing. And also it is a curve. It is not a straight line. It is the slope is increasing, and that is also increasing in non-linear fashion. Therefore, for our given data and tau naught not equal to 0, our answer will be rheopectic fluid. What does actually happen in rheopectic fluid? See, in this fluid, if you can observe, for small change, for small change in the shear stress, there is a large change in shear strain, rate of shear strain. This is a small change in shear stress. There is a large change in rate of shear strain. When will this happen? This will happen when the viscosity of the fluid is decreased. Suppose if any fluid viscosity is being decreased with time, then you can know that fluid will offer very more strain. It will actually offer more strain for little stress. Okay, for that we can take an example of suppose you are having some fluid like we can say you are making buttermilk from curd, right, or from butter. Whenever you add curd to water or water to curd and start stirring it, initially the curd solid particles are heavy in mass. Okay, they'll offer more resistance to stirring. But as time passes, you can observe that the stirring becomes easier because all the curd solid particles get into small pieces or very small masses. Okay, they'll get into distributed mass overall into the complete water you added, and then the stirring process becomes easy. As with the stirring process with the time, you can notice that it is offering very less stress, and it is actually having more strain there. Okay, so that type of fluids, we can say that viscosity is being decreased with time, and that types of fluids are called as rheopectic. And from the initially they are having some shear stress. Okay, even in that curd and water example, when you are even starting initially, you will have some shear stress. Actually, you have to give some extra shear stress. You have to start. Here shear stress not starts from 0. There is from the initially we are having some shear stress value. From there we start stirring, and slowly the shear stress decreases, but the shear strain increases. You can imagine it practically. And this type of fluids are called as rheopectic. And generally we'll take an example of gypsum in water. Okay, and also bentonite solution. These both were the examples. Okay, going to the next question. Question number 4. For the given arrangement, the pressure difference between A and B is, okay, take G is equal to 10 meter per second square. All dimensions are in centimeter. If you can observe, it is a case of manometer, and to be exactly differential manometer. We need to calculate the pressure difference between two fluids. So here we are having a pipeline carrying fluid A, nothing but water at some pressure or some elevations. Exactly. Here we are having a pipe B, also taking water, and it is also at some pressure and with some elevation. Just we need to calculate the pressure difference between them using the setup of this manometer, U-tube manometers. Setup of U-tube, inclined U-tube, again U-tube. So manometers. How we will do this? For this, there is a very simple technique for differential manometer, and that is called as a jumping jack method. What is actually jumping jack method? This uses the principle of Pascal's law. This uses the principle of fluid statics. It states that in the same fluid at same height, the pressure will be the same. Suppose here we are taking mercury. This is our mercury here. Here at this point, and in the same fluid we are traveling, and we come to the point where these both points were having same height. These were at the same height. So the pressure here is equal to the pressure here. So whatever pressure we are having here, that should be equal to the pressure we are having here. Similarly, in the case of this oil, if you can take this height, here pressure and here pressure, both the pressures will be same. Similarly here, and also in the same fluid mercury here, both the pressures were same. So using this technique, we can just apply jumping jack here. So if the pressures were the same, then we need not they are equal, so we need not consider the pressure between those points. They'll be getting cancelled out even if we consider. So by jumping jack method, we can simply do this as PA. So whatever pressure, we are starting from here, and we know when a fluid, when we are moving down, pressure increases, so we need to add the quantity, and when we are moving up, the pressure decreases, so we need to subtract the quantity. So here PA plus the water column, the water height is given as 10 centimeters. So 10 centimeters means 10 by 100 meters into water density is 1000 into the acceleration of gravity is said to be taken as 10. This was finished, water height was. Next we are coming to this point. We need not apply between these 2 points. So we'll neglect those 2 points. Now we'll consider the extra remaining this part. And for moving in this fluid, we need to move in the upward direction. Right, for the upward direction, we know it is negative. So minus 3 upon 100 into, the fluid is mercury. For mercury, density is 13.6 into 1000 into G is 10. That was finished. Again, we are at this point, and to this point, the pressure was same. So we need not calculate this complete part. So we'll directly move from this point to this point, and we'll come to this point. So we need not calculate the pressure in this total value. So we'll directly come to this point. Now we have to move down in this 4 value. Moving down, it is positive upon 100, and that yellow fluid is nothing but oil having specific gravity 0.8 into 1000 into 10. Right, that was finished. Now again we are at this point. At this point, say moving in the same fluid, we need not consider, and we directly arrive. We'll directly jump to this point here. Okay, and now we are left with this value, and we have to move upward in that fluid to calculate the pressure. Moving upward, it is negative minus 7 by 100, and the fluid is mercury, 13.6 into 1000 into 10. And again we are moving in the upward in the water, and moving upward is negative, and it is having a value of 6 centimeters. So 6 by 100 into water is nothing but 1000 into 10, and now that must be equal to PEB. What exactly pressures we are calculating here? This pressure PA and PB are the gauge pressures, because there is no atmospheric contact here. If suppose there is no B here, and if this pipe is open to atmosphere, then the value of PA will be absolute here. But here PA and PB are not open to atmosphere. Therefore, these values PA and PB are gauge pressures. Now we are calculating the gauge pressure difference. So all the values were known. We'll take PA minus PB. You calculate each and every value and subtract and add. Then finally we'll get the value as 12.88 kilopascals. Because everything we've taken in SI units, we'll get the answer in kilopascals. Next, moving on to the next question, last question. A dam is having a curved surface as shown in the figure below. Width is 1 meter. So into the board, it is having some width of 1 meter. Okay, assuming G is equal to 10 meter per second square, the vertical force on the curved surface of the dam is. So here, and one more important thing, this is a vertical surface. Yes, it is very simple to calculate, but here one twist in the question is, the axis were changed. If you can observe, the x-axis is given as vertical and the y-axis is given as horizontal. Okay, we'll proceed to the question. This is our curved surface. For curved surface, to calculate the vertical component of force, this is an important statement. The vertical component of force of any curved surface is equal to the weight of the fluid contained by the curved surface. This is our curved surface and this is the fluid it contains till the free surface. This is our free surface. Okay, until up to the free surface, whatever be the weight of the fluid contained, that will be the force acting on this curved surface in the vertical direction. Suppose we have a case like this. This is our free surface. Okay, and this is our curved part. There is some sectorial gate or something. Here, if you were to calculate the force acting on it, the statement states that it is the weight of the fluid contained by the curved surface up to the free surface. So we need to project it till the free surface and we need to calculate the volume contained in this space, and for that volume we need to calculate the weight. That will be the force vertical on this curved surface. Okay, here we did not take this in our example. We'll simply use this curved surface for whatever given for us. So for that, how we'll proceed is, we'll initially assume some origin here. Since it is an curved surface and that curved surface is, the equation for the curved surface is given as y is equal to x square upon 2. So here we can't directly calculate volume because at each and every length, the variation, there is a variation in x, there is a variation in y with respect to x. Therefore, we need to perform integrations here. So how we will do that? So initially, we'll whatever be the curved surface, whatever be the equation, initially we have to take an origin point. Whatever be, here can be origin, here can be origin. It depends on us. So here, this is our origin, and also important thing in the question is, this is our x direction and this is our y direction. Okay, and our origin point is 0, 0. And also in the question, the height of this curved surface is given as 10 meter. If this is our 10 meter, and then this point will be nothing but, let this be A and B and this be A. So this point coordinate will be 10, 0 because this is our x-axis, this is our x-axis. So this is 10, 0. If this is 10, 0, we need to calculate what is the coordinates of y. We know the curve is varying as y is equal to x square by 2. And we know at this straight line, the value of x is 10. And at this line, the value of x is 0. Therefore, at x is equal to 10, it is nothing but 10 square upon 2, that is equal to 50. So this point comes out to be 10, 50. Now we need to apply integration to calculate the volume. So we'll take a differential element in the curved surface. We'll take a differential element. Okay, we'll take a differential element in this way. Okay, and this is our dx, right, and this is our dy. So for the differential element, what will be the volume? dv, and that is nothing but d area into the width. Width is nothing but, given in the question, 1 meter. So therefore our dv is nothing but dA. And what is dA? dA for the differential element is dx into dy. Okay, now here we'll apply integration on both sides. But for dx into dy, we need to apply multiple integrals because there is a variation in x and also variation in y. So it is a double integral because we are calculating area. For area, we need to do surface integral or the double integral. Okay. So when we integrate dv, it is nothing but v. And when we have to integrate for dx and dy, we need to specify the limits here. So here, if you can observe, our x is varying from 0 to 10. Right. Our x is varying from 0 to 10. So first we'll take, since the x values were known, 0 and 10, we can directly substitute the values finally in integration. To substitute them finally in the integration, it should be our second integral. Therefore, to keep that second integral, we'll place the integral outside with the limits x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 10. When x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 10. Here when x is equal to 0, our y is also nothing but x square by 2 will also be equal to 0. And here also the y value is varying with x square by 2. Okay, so here it is y is equal to 0 to y is equal to x square upon 2. dy, because here we are taking y limits, and the total of dx. So we'll simplify that. Then here x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 10. Integral dy is nothing but y. For that y we substitute the upper limit x square by 2, then it will be x squared by 2. Lower limit is 0, we need not substitute, into dx. Now again we simplify this. It is x cube upon 6 with the limits 0 to 10. From that we'll get the value of volume as 1000 by 6. And the force vertical on the curved surface is the weight contained by the fluid on the curved surface up to the free surface. So Fv is equal to, weight is nothing but rho Vg, and the rho is nothing here, it is but water, so 1000 into the volume, we got it as 1000 upon 6 into acceleration of gravity is said to be taken as 10, and then the answer will be 1.667 into 10 power 6 newtons, or else it is nothing but 1.667 mega newtons. We'll also take many these type of curved questions because they are a little critical. Mostly in hydrostatic forces, curved surface will have most importance for to understand the concept. Flat surfaces, it is very simple. We'll apply a direct formula. F is equal to WAX bar. X bar can be calculated. So we can easily do that flat surface questions. In curved surface question, many will have confusions. So we'll do many such quiz questions, conceptual questions on curved surfaces. And thanks for watching. This is the video for today. These were the 5 questions for today. Thank you. Keep practicing.